everyone, and welcome back to OHKO, a Pokemon VGC podcast. It has been a little bit, and we are so sorry for that, but we're ready to get back into the fun and wacky world of Pokemon VGC. My name is Sierra Dawn, one of your hosts, joined by my co-host here, Joe Brown. It's been a little bit, but we're doing exciting things. We're out in Japan at the Pokemon World Championships, so I think that kind of warrants the little podcast hiatus.
Yeah, I'll take the blame here, Sierra. I was the one that stayed in Japan for quite a while afterwards because, you know, my thought process is like, this might be the only time I ever go to Japan in my entire life, right? So tried to make a whole 2+ week adventure out of it, and you know, because of me staying extra and the 14-hour flight back and everything like that, kind of got delayed in there in our episodes. But hopefully we should be domestic for, you know, the next couple of months, and we'll be able to get our weekly episodes out.
And we're going to talk so much about Japan because not only was there the World Championships, but of course our own journeys through Japan, especially since you did get to stay longer, and a lot of exciting news coming out in today's podcast episode as well. So today we're going to be discussing, of course, everything about Worlds, everything about Japan, including the closing ceremonies. A lot of good information was dropped for video game fans there, so good stuff, including the news isn't stopping. There's also news the day that we are recording this about a new Pokemon, so much coming with this DLC. And finally, of course, we'll end it off with our question of the day, which we got one this week. It isn't the first week of the podcast, so that is super nice and exciting. But first, we'll talk about Worlds, because you said you're not sure when you're going back to Japan again. Me neither. I don't know when Pokemon's going to go back to Japan either. Like, this was their flagship big World Championships.
Yeah, this was, for anyone who doesn't know, this was intended to be the 25th anniversary of Pokemon. Was supposed to have the World Championships in Japan as a big anniversary celebration, but of course, the world shutting down for a couple of years kind of changed their plans. Now it's the 27th anniversary for it. And if you look at under the lens of this, all was supposed to be 25th anniversary, everything makes a lot more sense, where like the entire city was Pokemon themed, and you had the SSN and the Lapras rides, and every train station had Pikachu things all over. The airports, literally the first thing I saw when I got out of the airport was an ad for the World Championships in Yokohama when I was in Tokyo. So like, when you use that perspective that this is essentially the anniversary celebration World Championships for Japan, like it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, it was incredible how much it was advertised. So I saw the same advertisements getting out of the airport, and then around Tokyo, like there's advertisements. It wasn't too much, but then actually getting into Yokohama, it was insane. So they had like this TCG card walk all throughout. There was a mall next to the convention center. All throughout there was Pokemon cards plastered all over the floor, all over the walls. They had different photo op areas. There was like Butterfree wings on the wall that I totally forgot to go take a picture with. So I know. And they had like different statues and stuff. And even through the mall. So there's a bunch of TVs for like advertisements. And before the World Championships, they were playing like promotional material for Worlds. That one hype video they did with the girl and her Pikachu after she wins on stage and does awesome things. And then once we actually switched to the World Championships, they actually just played the World Championships in the mall, and everyone was stopping and watching. Like, it was really cool.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The event was. I guess, yeah, because you were working. Yeah, no, they played like the actual matches with the Japanese casters in the mall, and people were like stopping as they were walking by to just sit and watch the matches. That's
pretty cool. I remember in London last year, next to the Excel Center, that big mall, there were some TVs that had Pokemon on. Because I remember one of my friends told me, he's like, I see you at like the food mart right now. Like, you saw me on TV there. So it definitely makes sense. And I remember it was a big deal in Japan, obviously. Like, I remember one night in Yokohama, we went out for dinner, and our waiter, like, we told him we were there for the Pokemon World Championships and stuff. He's like, oh, I'm going on Sunday. And he's just like a casual Pokemon fan, and he was going for Championship Sunday and stuff. So it really was like Japan collectively was like super into the World Championships this year. And, you know, I think they got a pretty good show on the VGC end. Personally, I don't know what happened in Unite or Go or TCG. I was a little busy covering VGC backstage, but the matches every single round over 2 days, and Top Cut and finals and everything. You know, they were pretty hype all weekend, honestly.
Yeah, so what we made up for in matches, though, there was definitely a lot of things that kind of went down at Worlds, especially on the VG end of things. That definitely, if you're only watching the broadcast, then I'm sure that this was fantastic for you. So maybe you missed out unless you've been following over on Twitter or X. But
well, they got to see some of it with poor Lou and Lee having to to cover the stream. Like it was like the opening ceremony was so awesome. You hit all the drums, ba-da, ba-da, ba, like, and everything's cool. And Anna and Ishihara, they're all out there and giving it the best. And like, let's go. And then Lou and Lee have to cover like an hour and 15 minutes of just like vamping before round one starts because of all the technical issues they were having. So it was rough.
They had to do a cut. It was always Lee and Lou who had
every time. I feel so bad for
every
them.
time.
Because remember last year they had the Galysopod round too in Top Cup was Lou and Lee as well. So it's just those two together. We just can't put them together anymore. It's just
there's always a caster duo like that though. Like for Valorant, it's Pansy and Hypoc. Always tech issues. And like not like 1 minute, but like big tech issues. Every single time they cast, it's just like the biggest meme. And I guess the VGC equivalent of that is our Lee and our Lou. So rip them. But the opening ceremonies beyond that was cool. They had all the drum part. Like that was actually insane. I'm assuming you were backstage when that was all happening though?
Yeah, I had actually a pretty good view. So, like we talked about last time, I was a subject matter expert. So I was in the production line. I was on the headset, had, communication with all the producers and directors and graphics guys, replay operators and stuff like that. So I actually had like a great seat behind our director, who was the one, I guess VG was directing the opening ceremony. And so, excuse me, he's out there and he's like, the drums are going. He's like, all right, ready, camera 7, start your move, cut 7. And he's like, 6, I need the gym. Like, he's just going. I don't even know if he knew the words he was saying. Like, he was so in depth. And I was literally right behind Brandon, our director. And so he's like, ready 3, cut 3, ready 4, dissolve 4. Like, he's just screaming at the top of his lungs. And the pacing, I'm just like I couldn't even keep up with it. Just watching it, and it was amazing to see, the backstage stuff. Because as casters, we usually don't really, see that part of the job with the directors and the people on the line. So like, I was literally like jaw dropped. I was like, oh my god, this was so cool to see it all like get put together. And those, like, when the one dude broke out like the bamboo baseball bat, it was just like, whoop-ball. And like every time he slammed on it, Brandon cut the shot to another thing. And like, it was just like, even my mom watched the opening ceremony and she texted me afterwards. She was like, those drums were awesome.
It was so cool. I was sitting like out in the crowd and like we got to, because we were like scoping out, like people are saving their spots in advance, right? People are sitting there and we're seeing the drums on stage. We're like, oh, that isn't just for prop. Like there's going to be something going on with those drums. And it was so cool. So took like a little bit of video so you can save the memory. But then I just kind of like sat back. So since I didn't work the event at all, I just got to actually enjoy things. Just sat and enjoyed it. And it was actually such a cool start to the day, unlike anything else. I mean, you would think like, oh, well, it's just some drums. Like maybe if you weren't there, I don't know for those who actually watched on Twitch or YouTube how it came across, but actually sitting there in the atmosphere and hearing like the drums ringing out and stuff was insane. So really, really cool way to start the show, which ended up being a gong show from there on out when you're looking at the video games and stuff. Because day one, we got to start Worlds off with a bang with disqualifying some players.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Naoto and Eric Rios in round 1. I thought that was starting off with a bang.
I mean, that was too. But we already know that the broadcast end of things, the matches were a slam dunk. But some people definitely got slammed as they definitely came down on this event, and quite a few players were unprepared. So we got quite a few disqualifications or people getting Pokemon taken away on day 1, and that was like all the rage, all the news, all over anywhere. So not something that you would necessarily see if you were just watching the broadcast, but if anyone was following players online, I think locked up at about 10 people disqualified on day one. So that was a pretty decent number, but hey, the stream matches were good.
Yeah, I know. Well, that was like one of the benefits, I guess, of even though the time was taking forever, they were doing the hack checks on screen, so the casters were pulling multiple matches, like just in case something happened. But luckily, we never had an issue, so we never had to use a backup match or anything like that. But yeah, so there were 10 people disqualified, but there were also people that just like got dinged for issues, and I think I don't know, like to me, Sierra, I think a lot of people's frustrations comes with the judging staff or tournament organizers comes with inconsistencies, right? So it's not like, for example, like some of the people like, I was walking down the street and I got disqualified and I did nothing wrong. Like, we know that tweet's a lie, right? We know that that's absolutely not true, that is not what happened, right? So some of the people that were making statements, you have to take a grain of salt. Like, I heard some stories of like verified, like this person making this statement is categorically untrue and not how the scenario went down. So you can't really just trust everybody's word how it worked. But I think when it comes to inconsistencies, a lot of times we get frustrated with Pokemon with on the tournament organizer end and the judging end when you have like all right, well this player had their special attack wrong and so they got a game loss but got to keep their Pokemon, versus this player had the special attack wrong and they got a round loss. Like, we have inconsistencies like that all the time, right, at our regionals and other tournaments. So when you have it at the World Championship and the biggest stage and hearing stories that, like, okay, this player had one hacked Pokemon, so they lost the Pokemon and were able to continue playing, but then this player had 2 or more hacked Pokemon, therefore they were disqualified. It kind of doesn't... It's a little confusing, because if the rule is that you can't have any hacked Pokemon, why are the one hacked Pokemon players allowed to continue with five Pokemon on their team? That doesn't really seem like a consistent ruling. So I think that's where a lot of frustration can come from the player base.
Yeah, and VGC too, considering that it is like on a console, I feel like the up in the air rulings don't happen as often as they do on the TCG end, where a lot of it is like with the cards and how things can happen, like there is so much otherwise at play. But I feel like too, even when there is consistencies with rulings, that not everyone is still going to be happy. So looking at day 2 of the competition, there was still things happening. So in top 16 of our World Championships, for anyone who didn't see, there ended up being a disconnect that disconnected all of the top 16 matches, save the stream match, because obviously they're on stage and doing everything else. And the ruling does dictate in this situation, if that were to happen, my understanding, it is always a sudden death. So it ended up being that there was sudden death in the top 16 here for people trying to get into their top 8 slots. So it even goes down to that is a consistent ruling, but it's still something that people are unhappy with because of the fact that there is also nuances in the situation. Like, there's some people saying that they were further ahead on board state and that they were about to win, but then they're going to lose. And I just feel so bad for every single player that was in that situation as well, because there's literally no winners in that situation. Like, you either take the loss or you win, but it's then like a little asterisk next to it, like, oh, there was disease and there's sudden death. Like, that just sucked. And that was something that was stuck to the ruling too.
Yeah, that's a good point, that even though they made the correct ruling of the letter of the law, it still felt bad. And it's like context based, because so like those disconnects, most of them happen in game 3s because the round had been going on for a while. So the difference is if it was in a game 1 and you get a tie, excuse me. So like, because of just how long the round had been going, if that was a game 1, maybe people don't feel as bad about it. But because if it was game 3, that means it's already tied 1-1, and then that game kind of counts as like a non-game, a tie or whatever, and you go for the 4th game sudden death. Like, maybe I wonder if that's something they're going to reevaluate when things are out of their control, right? When you have like the force of God, those incidents that alter the outcome of the match, maybe making game 4 not a sudden death game and making game 4 a legitimate regular match as well. And I think it's really unfortunate, especially because we only had the one stream match every round, right? So we didn't understand the context. It's not like the Glycopod match last year where it was on stream and you saw just how devastating of a moment that was, because he was very close to winning that game, but it was his fault that the DC happened. So we were not out in the floor to see those matches, and so people, calling out the players and, oh, you should have just conceded and blah, blah. It's like, it's tough because in that moment, like, I was talking with Ray Rizzo backstage about it, and he was like, if I think I have a chance to win the World Championship, if I think there's still a 10% chance I win that game, he misses Rock Slide, he misses Thunder Wave, he misses whatever, I'm not going to concede that under any circumstance. And I understand that viewpoint. So I can understand someone who's currently in top 16 of the World Championship, just a couple of wins away from being world champion, and thinking, yeah, I might only have a small out, but I want to play to that out. And so, yeah, it's really unfortunate, especially on Emilio's end, because of how much of a miracle run he's been on this season and proving he's one of the best players in the world, like hands down, how consistently strong he is at events. And it really stinks for players of his caliber to have those situations, but like, it's just, I don't have an answer, Sierra. I don't know what the solution is, because they literally pulled up the textbook and said, this is what we do. So it's not like there was a judgment call or anything like that, right? They counted, this is the Pokemon count, this is what we do, we are going to do the letter of the law. So, like, do you get mad at the textbook? Like, they did what they were supposed to do. I don't, it
That's
sucks.
the thing, though, is, like, there's inconsistencies in rulings, but even when we have consistent rulings, Glycopod incident last year, or the top 16 DCs this year, it never feels good. It's just, in the end, it never feels good. And, like, I empathize so much with players. I promise there was some good things about Worlds too. Anyone who's listening and they're like, wow, what is going on? We'll talk about the good things too, but obviously there was a lot that went on, and I feel so bad for those players, because it always goes down to, as well, the ones who are playing at the table. The only two people that understand that board state right then is those two people that are playing. And you hear all the time players talking about after they lose or after they win, talking about matches with their opponent after, being like, oh, well, if you didn't crit, I was going to win. Or, like, there's always different viewpoints on this match. Oh, well, there was a high roller, there's a low roller, anything else. So players disagree all the time. I even know of some players that have been mad because their opponents chalked up, like, oh, well, like, the crit didn't matter. And they're like, the crit totally mattered,
that's the worst feeling.
So, like, it's very much so, like, in your own mind where you think the board sits. So maybe somebody thinks, like, okay, this is locked, and maybe someone else is seeing it out, because, like, you never know what the other player is thinking, or, like, their perceived path to victory in their mind. So I understand the frustrations, obviously, on both ends. And it just goes down to, as well, like, there is no perfect answer to that. I don't know, because then it even goes down to, if the ruling does get changed and it is a replay, like, when is it only a replay if the whole table disconnects? Because, like, I feel like this is something that's kind of more so in place for when one person disconnects, and then if all of a sudden it is like oh, well, if it's more or if it's not, like, that's where then you can start getting rulings that will become inconsistent down the line when you're trying to fix for every single scenario, which then maybe there's people that would have been mad if it was a replay, because maybe even at the end, if it was a replay, it would have been a different situation. Like, they still would have lost. Like, it's, I don't know, man.
Like, I remember one of the guys on the production line, like, he asked me, he was like, if you're in that situation, because, they saw all the conversations happening online, like, what would you do? You feel like you're about to lose next turn in the game DC, so you're still technically alive. And like, me personally, I was just like, I don't think I have that dog in me. Like, I think I would have conceded. I was like, man, I'm going to feel like such a, if I win this game 4 sudden death when I was about to lose game 3, if it wasn't for the DC that was not in our control, it was somebody else did something and knocked everybody apart. Like, I don't know if I could have done that, but I'm not a competitor at that highest level, right? I'm not believing in my skills that I can come back from any deficit like these top level VGC players do.
It just goes down to the chances, like, because sure, maybe someone only had a 1% chance to win. Those 1%, those 0.5, those 0.01% chances happen,
They happen all the time in Pokemon.
We casted the match between James Evans and Joseph Ugarte, where it was like the crit burn and all these...
And P-Blades miss.
Yeah, so it's like, those chances, they do happen. You know what I mean? So then if anyone thinks that they have that 1% chance, even goes back to, we keep referencing the Glycopod incident because people were calling for his opponent to forfeit after that, but he was like, I still felt like there was a path to victory. Like, you're in the World Championships, you're going on that run. Like, I feel like if I was 100% certain that I couldn't have won, that I would like to think that I would forfeit. If I was also 100% certain that I had lost at that point, like, I would have already forfeited the game. You know what I mean? So if there is a reason that I'm still playing that game, I feel like there would be, because I thought that there was still a legit,
You can do it. Sound it out.
I can do it. Still a legitimate chance I could win. So it's one of those that, like, I don't know. I feel like it's really easy for people to say to, like, oh, I would have conceded, but, like, well, you're in that situation. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
The scenario to me, Sierra, is with, unfortunately, Joe Ugarte and Aaron Traylor, Salt Lake City 2022, right? If you remember that top 4 match, Aaron Traylor needed to dodge play rough, land origin pulse, and like all of these, like there was like 4 different things that had to happen all in that same sequence. And so like Joe did the math, and essentially it was like Aaron had a 2.3% chance of winning that game, and by missing play rough and origin pulse connecting, and you know, like the odds of it, like he was like, I'll make that same play again because 98% of the time I win that game. So let's say that DC happens right before the turn where Aaron needs the. Oh, I'm getting a phone call. So just keep. I don't even know. Just listen to it. Just let me try to put this on me as I'm talking. Anyway, so it's on the iPad. It's weird, very weird. I'm not a big iPad guy, so apologies for that. So let's say there's a DC on that last turn of Game 3 of Top 4 at Salt Lake City. And Aaron Traylor knows if I dodge play rough and hit Origin Pulse, I win this game. But he's like, yeah, but it's only a 2% chance to happen. Like, should he concede? Like, he literally, as we saw, he won the set because of that 2% chance. So, like, it's not always as clear cut as we would want it to be in life.
Yeah, so it just goes down to, is like, if anyone thinks they have a chance, like, I don't necessarily blame them for playing it out, but obviously then, like, that always feels bad because you never actually know, because it then goes to the cat in the box theory. Like, you know, both kind of scenarios exist. Had that DC not happen, there could have been that world where there could have been the loss for what was a very close, like, locked game. There could have actually been the loss there that happened. Every single chance that, you know, could have been against you could have actually happened, you know? But they'll never actually know. At least with, like, the Salt Lake City situation, we got the outcome. We know that we hit that 2%. Had there been that DC, though, at that point, and they replayed it, and then there was the win by trailer in, like, sudden death or something, then there could be that situation where people say, oh, well, he should have lost.
He should have forfeited.
But, like, when we know the outcome was actually, you know, different. So it's just, I don't know, maybe in some alternate universe, you know, we have a very different world champion. But I don't know. That's just, yeah, that kind of put a little bit of a bummer on the day. I'm not gonna lie. I felt really bad for the players at that point. But
especially how long the day was too. It was like, oh my god, they were there forever. Obviously, you're going from the start of day 1, round 1 of the Swiss tournament, all the way down to 2 players remaining. So to have like such a grueling, exhausting day where you probably played like 11, 12 matches of, I don't even know how many matches of rounds of Pokemon you had to play.
Too, yeah,
so really
at least if it happens in Swiss, you're like, oh, well, you know, like, it still sucks. Don't get me wrong, but it's happening in Swiss. You got a couple more rounds after, but play all the rounds of Swiss. You play your top 32. You're in your top 16 world. Like, that's just, man, the timing of that really, really sucked. But I will say, as much as day 2 was a really big bummer on that note, our championship Sunday, I was very glad that we got to our championship Sunday, and it was very much so like, okay, like, this seems a lot more right. Like, this seems good. Like, it was a good day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, all 3 matches were 2-0s, which is kind of like, you know, as caster, that's not what we like to see. We want to see those game 3s and really exciting, dramatic matches. But, like, even the plays in the 2-0s were still incredible. Like, seeing Tomoya in seniors, like, making the switches, and, like, even the juniors plays, like, was it? So I think it was Sora. The turn in game 2. There's a Fluttermane on the other side, and he has Iron Hands. And so this is a junior player makes this decision. He's like, I'm gonna predict Terra Water Fluttermane, and I'm gonna Wild Charge it instead of Heavy Slam. So he comes up, they both Terrastalize, Moonblast doesn't knock out, Wild Charge goes in, and the crowd goes wild. And it was like, that was a Masters level decision that junior player made. It was crazy to watch.
That's exciting stuff too, because obviously the juniors will one day be seniors, which will one day be masters. So it's exciting to see. Like, honestly, even like NAIC, the juniors match, absolutely hype. We casted the juniors match for Worlds back at London.
Yeah, G-Max Blastoise, World Champion.
Yes, like, I don't know, the matches are good. Like, anyone who's like, oh no, but they're junior or whatever, no, you gotta watch
they're cracked.
some of the matches. Like, they're actually really good.
Yeah, I also think what was interesting with Tomoya, besides his like selfie that went the selfie around the world, which was the coldest selfie of all time
for anyone who might not have seen.
So Tomoya, he's rolling around making snow angels on the stage because he's so excited that he won the world championship in the senior division. And then before he does anything, he just pulls out his phone and takes a selfie with the crowd behind him. And it got like 5,000 likes. Like Aaron retweeted it. Like, this is the coldest selfie in VGC history. Like, it was so cool. But in that set, one thing I noticed is that Tomoya he won 2-0 and he didn't even Terrastalize. And I feel like that might be like the first time I've seen somebody win a set without Terrastalizing this generation. You know what I mean?
No, I feel like
it's not very common to go 2 full games without Terrastalizing. It's not very common.
It's definitely not common. I feel like if we went back, we could maybe find a match, but like, I'm definitely
in such a high profile position too. You know what I mean?
Definitely the fact that it's the World Championships finals. Like, yeah, that definitely is a big one. But hey, we talk about players. Sometimes when you know when to hold your Terra can help you out, and apparently holding it all match was the
saving it for next season,
saving it for next season, saving it for next Worlds, but I don't know, the VGC ones, it was a fun day. I have to say though, highlight for me of the championship Sunday was the TCG finals. The TCG top 4 was absolutely cracked. First off, like, that was insane. It was Tord, it was Vance Kelly, who ended up being the winner. It was Azul and Michael Premolot. So that was just, first off, the TCG, they had the perfect storyline. Whoever did the script, just like, they're
great job, great job, Chip. Great job.
Yeah, totally TCG favorite. Like, it was insane. And then we ended up having Tord, who's has an IC title and everything. Like, it is Tord. Everyone knows who Tord is. Going up against Vance Kelly, who, I mean, I haven't been following the TCG the closest as of recently, so for me, that was someone who's I didn't know about, right? And then it was like this Tord being this final boss, but it's the World Championships, is the one title that he hasn't been able to get yet, and then going up against this person who kind of seemingly came out of the blue and who ended up beating Tord in this insane match. Like, that was, I don't know, that was incredible. Like, the crowd for that too, just, I don't know if you got to see any of that, because I know at that point you weren't working quite yet. VGC hadn't quite started. Like,
well, yeah, I was backstage, and so we actually didn't have audio in our section because we only have VG audio, and they were testing things and running segments and videos and whatnot. So I only had video of Tord and Vance, and I hear the crowd start clapping, and I hear everyone going crazy, and neither player is celebrating. And I'm like, wait, and I was there with the graphics guy, and I'm like, wait, what? Who won? And there was no graphic up, and we're like, what? Why are neither player happy? Clearly somebody won here. Like, we had no audio to know what was going on. And then Tord signs the match slip first. And then a TCG player was backstage and they're like, no, Vance won. And I'm like, why is Tord signing the match slip? Like, we were so confused backstage. But then we eventually, like, the TCG casters filled us in on, like, it went to +3 turns, and Tord had this, like, really crazy turn to bring it back into even, and, like, it was, like, one of the craziest matches they'd ever seen.
Well, especially on like tour to like the turn 2 of time. So for anyone who doesn't really know TCG, when they get to time, they get to do +3 turns. So one player's like turn 0, the other's +1, and they do that. Whoever's like ahead on prizes then wins, right? And at the point in the World Championships, I believe it is in like that type of match. If at the end of the 3 turns they're tied, they keep going until somebody takes a prize and they win. So we hit turns, and it ended up being towards final turn, so turn 2. So Vance still had to move after that, and it was like 10 minutes of solitaire. But I think too, I saw people saying like the reason like Vance didn't really react was because he just had win in hand like the
whole
entire
time, yeah,
the whole time. So towards going and playing to whatever out he can. Understandable. We literally just talked about for VGC, if you have that 2%, like you're gonna go for it, right? It happens at TCG too. You can hit some insane things. So Tord is just trying put anything together, piece anything together whatsoever. But then Vance had like just been sitting there for like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, like, yeah, I'm the world champion. Like,
Yeah,
I got this win. So that's probably added to your confusion backstage as well, because like Tord did everything, and the Vance was like, yeah, here's my.
It was just like, all right,
here's my switch card. Here's my bosses. Like,
the other confusion I heard is because they had the tiebreaker on the fantasy teams for TCG was how many cards would be in the discard pile in the game-winning game or whatever. So that was one of the other things, was the judges were, as he was like going to win the game and like shaking hands and stuff, the judges grabbed the discard pile to count how many cards there were. So then he was just sitting there waiting for them to be over to sign the match.
It was just for the fantasy draft.
Yeah, it was just for the fantasy thing.
I feel like they could. I don't know. I guess I feel like they could have done that better, but at the same time, like, players will take their cards right away.
Yeah.
So I guess there's no other way to really do that. But yeah, I'd be sitting there concerned if a judge grabbed my discard pile. So
I did have Mew and Genesect in my my fantasy team because I casually follow the TCG, and I was like, I remember these cards. I know what Genesect. I've seen Genesect before, so I got that one right.
Good job. I didn't get to fill one out because I'm Canadian, but you know that's
brutal.
It's okay. I'd like to think that I would have stuck true to the Mew and actually picked it, but hey, we got to do our own predictions on the channel because I couldn't do the fantasy draft, and maybe it's a good thing that I didn't get to do the fantasy draft because I lost the predictions too. So
ooh, yeah, you might owe every American a plushie if you were gonna enter the fantasy drafts with how the predictions went.
Yeah, so our first episode of the podcast, we did predictions on how we thought Worlds was going to be turning out, and there was the prize on the line of a plushie, not a sitting cutie, at the first regional that we both get to attend, and I absolutely did not win whatsoever.
So we had 10 questions, and I got 4, and Sierra got 1. And if you're wondering, the other 5 we essentially just didn't have the correct answer. Like, so there, like when I was going through, I was watching back, and like the ones like, what's going to be better, Reggie Drago or Reggie Alecki? And then it's like, okay, well there were 0 Reggie Alecki in day 2, and there was like 3 Reggie Drago. But the best finish was like 67th. I'm like, does that count as a big? All right, fine. Neither of us get that one. You know what I mean?
You were also so far ahead on points in general that like.
The best one, the best one to me was the one that we both got wrong. Was besides Fluttermane and Urshifu, what would be the 3rd most popular Pokemon? And I said Amoonguss, and you said Tornadus, and it was actually Iron Hands. And so I was like, neither of us get credit for that, but like, I think that's crazy because I did not expect at all going into Worlds that Iron Hands would be that high on usage.
Yeah, absolutely not. So it'll be fun because we're gonna go through some of the teams and kind of like what was the most unexpected. So that Iron Hands is definitely top of the list there. The only question, going back to predictions, that I did get right was the most common Terra-type Pokemon in top 8, which was the Terra Water Urshifu, which was literally, you know, when you play bingo, the free space, like that was basically my free space. Like that was pretty obvious there.
Right. So the all top 8 teams had N Urshifu. I believe 6 of them were water and 2 were dark. So all of your water ones were Terra Water, and then I think the dark was like Terra. One was Terra Dark, one was Terra Grass, or whatever. So, like, I know you intended it for it to be Water Bear and not just Urshifu in general. So I was counting that out, and it still ended up being correct. Or I think mine was Terra Water Fluttermane, and like it wasn't even the most common Fluttermane Terra typing in Top Cut. There were more Terra Grass, there were more Terra Fairy. So I got that one wrong.
Good job. But you did win the predictions overall. So what plushie are you going to try and scope out? That is the next big question.
Well, as long as it's not Sitting Cutie, it's got to be our boy Landorus, because, he's very important to the history of VGC, and also he won the World Championship. He's on Shohei's team. Lando actually pulled through. Like I said in last episode, we're all on the Torn train, but when your cards are down and hope is out, and you just gotta put your faith into one Pokemon in VGC, you go with Lando, baby.
I might have the bad news that I'm pretty sure a not Sitting Cutie Landorus doesn't exist. It was hard enough to even find a Landorus Sitting Cutie, by the way.
Fair.
So I don't. Yeah, you might be a little SOL on that one.
We'll make it work. If there's no Lando, I'll figure out another one.
Yeah, there'll be something there. But Landorus, I mean, you're talking about, hey, it's made it. It's doing the things. It's on the winning team. That it was Shohei, of course, being able to take down the World Championships. I feel like looking at the team beyond the Iron Hands, like this seems pretty, like, yeah, this seems like a big, just, I don't know the word, just the big representation or something of what Regulation D could be. This was the Fluttermane, it was the Urshifu Rapid Strike, Amoonguss, Chien-Pao, Landorus, and then Iron Hands. Like, I feel like that was pretty, like, you see that and you're like, yeah, that's Regulation D, all right.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, that that definitely makes sense. And I think what was interesting, because we saw like on the broadcast, like Yuki was talking about how Shohei had built this team and other players were using the same 6. I think it had come out like I think Shohei had used it excuse me, in an online tournament the week prior or something like that, so people were kind of prepared for this 6, but it just goes to show, like,
not prepared enough, I guess.
Yeah, not prepared enough. And some of his friends were also using the same 6, and just like there's so much with this team. Like, obviously we talked about Landorus. Landorus actually was irrelevant in the finals because there was no Amoonguss on the other side, so the safety goggles Terraflying Landorus, which is just like an anti-Amoonguss button. He didn't even need to bring it, but the thing with Chien-Pao, like, it won the first Regulation C event. It won an AIC. It won Worlds. Like, and Chien-Pao obviously does damage on its own, but like by letting Landorus get the knockout on Amoonguss because Sword of Ruin is up, and letting Urshifu crit even harder because of Sword of Ruin, like all of these physical attackers that really appreciate being next to Chien-Pao, it's like it's the most supportive Pokemon that's not actually support. Like, you think Clefairy and Amoonguss and Smeargle and like other things that are supportive, right? But like Chien-Pao is helping everybody else succeed just as much, but like without supportive tools. It's crazy how good it is.
I know, it's actually, and it's looks like such a good little boy too. The Chien-Pao is so cute. So double bonus points there. But even if people were trying to be prepared for Shohei's team, there's no way that Shohei was prepared against the team that he went up against in finals.
No.
That team was crazy. So Michael Kelch being able to get in second place here. The Dragapult, we've seen that a couple times. It's still crazy to see. But it was Dragapult and Farigiraf on the same team. Like, this
I think the
crazy.
only time we see Dragapult is in finals of tournaments. You know what I mean? Like, it is not a popular
knocked
Pokemon.
Out right out the gate, or he makes that run. It's one.
It is a very difficult Pokemon to pilot. So anybody that's running it, like, likely does not perform well because of how much you have to do. But like, Choice Band Dragapult next to Chien-Pao, lowering their defense. Choice Scarf Urshifu Rapid Strike here, which was different than the Mystic Waters or Safety Goggles that other Urshifus were running in the tournament, which are much more common than the Scarf. Like, again, this is all Chien Pao facilitating it, because these are physical attackers. Like we said, that we didn't think Dragonite was going to do great, especially the Terra Normal version. Like, any of the Dragonites that did Top Cut were Terra Flying and Terra Blast, so, like, we were right on that one. But, like, the one big turn was, I think it was game 2, where Michael went for Choice Band Terra Blast with Chien Pao on the field, and Amoonguss took the hit as Terra Water Amoonguss and put Dragapult to sleep, and it was just like, all right, that's game. Like, Michael put all his cards on the field, and it was like, I have to get this knockout to stay in this series, and Amoonguss was able to hang on through the Sword of Ruin and everything. Like, but yeah, Farigiraf almost won the World Championship. Rocky Helmet, like, it was this team is awesome by Michael, and he just started playing VGC this season, so I really wonder how far he's going to go in the coming years.
I forget who it was, but somebody on Twitter said if Farigiraf won Worlds, that they were going to eat a shoe, and I bet they were just sitting there at the finals, just like praying right then.
It's just like looking at their shoes, like, oh, brother.
That's
like,
the real reason the Amoonguss survived that hit, was because there's this one person in the crowd just praying, like, please, I cannot eat this shoe. But, no, honestly, like, for someone to make a run with Farigiraf and Dragapult, like, insane. Team does not have a Fluttermane on it. I mean, a majority of the other teams out there do.
Yeah.
So, double.
20 of the top 26 of the World Championships had Fluttermane, which is just, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, when I'm looking through, too, it seems like whenever there isn't a Fluttermane, it's because there's a Golden Go instead on the team. So it's kind of like, pick your poison. Do you want the Fluttermane? Do you want the Dragapult? Or do you want the Golden Go? But, I mean, we knew that with it being Regulation D, we were going to see some wacky stuff. And a couple of the teams out here were incredible. You did get to see, too, your Moon Room team.
Yes.
Not quite your Moon Room. Not quite
there's
yours,
no,
you know.
yeah.
I won't say that. But I'm just saying, it's cool to see the Cresselia and Ursaluna. Federico managed to get that to a 4th place finish. So
yeah, Federico's not cool enough to run Weird Ear, the World Championship. I get it. I understand, but yeah, there were 4 Moon Room teams in top 26. One of them was a Japanese player, and then I believe it was 2 European, 1 North American, if I'm getting that correctly. But so it was not like as dominant as I thought it was going to be, because obviously I love the strategy and I think it's great. And we even saw in that game 1 or the game 3. Round 1 of day 1 with Eric Rios and Naoto, like the way Eric, like, honestly, I felt like such a huge genius, because Eric had Moon Room, he had Terra Water Fluttermane that was like super crucial in the set and everything. Like, these were all things I was saying in our predictions, and you know, I was like, oh my god, me and Eric Rios on the same page here. And like, he just played that game 3 masterfully, like switching Ursaluna as Crest gets Trick Room up, so then the Flame Orb activates at the perfect time. Now you have 4 turns of Trick Room to just dumpster everything. Like, it was cool. I'm sad that Ursaluna didn't win Worlds, but, you know, 4 Ursalunas in Top Cut, I'll take it.
Yeah, it's still a pretty good representation, especially, too, since Trick Room is... I feel like people actually were pretty respectful of Ursaluna heading into this, because it does look like it has some extreme power, so not surprised if people are definitely making sure in their team building that they were good on that note. There's a lot less Heatran than I thought that was going to be represented.
Yes.
I was looking at, like, the top cut overall. I mean, Michael got it to this 2nd place, don't get me wrong, but I'm looking at the top like 15, there's 2 Heatrans there. Like, that's, I don't know. I thought Heatran was going to be...
Yeah, I'm counting it. There are 6 Heatran in Top Cut out of our top 26 players, which is not a lot, because, like, I really think, I don't know what's going to happen in Pittsburgh, but, like, I really think Heatran is incredible. Like, I was, like, talking with the casters backstage, like, they were there practice and stuff, and, like, I think it is such a fantastic Pokemon in this format, especially when you Terra Grass against the Urshifu Water. Like, I think it's so great, and I wonder if people are, I guess, maybe just not finding the right team to build Heatran around. But yes, only 6 of the top 26. I was absolutely surprised by that.
Yeah, a couple of other fun, interesting things. I mean, it was tweeted about by Pokemon. It was kind of everywhere. This Wo Chien that was brought
Yeah.
out. That was a fun one. I mean, I told you about that before the event, and I'm like, oh my god, Ugarte's bringing
More
Wo
like Joe
Chien.
Chien, you know?
Joe Chien didn't end up becoming the WoW champion, but I mean, oh, the conversation too was, or I'm just like, how's the team building? He's like, I got WoW Chien on my team, and I'm like, what are you doing? And then actually proceeds to bring it to the World Championships and actually manages to get like 19th place with it. So
And he was the only player in day 2 that had Wo Chien. I went through all the Control F when we were looking through the pairings and seeing he was the only player in the world, Sierra, that brought Wo Chien, and he made it to top cut. I think that's like almost an accomplishment of itself.
yeah, too. Especially like, I don't actually think the team was bad as much as I want to say bad things about the Wo Chien. I mean, he played against Rios, and the Wo Chien actually won him the set. Like, it actually, it did not have the greatest look on stream because
No, it did
Wo
not.
Chien was streamed, and it kind of got dogged on a little bit, but the actual other parts of the tournament ended up actually being pretty good. So it was kind of funny to see after all year long that after all the memes of like, you know, there's no Chien around and it's only, you know I've said my fair share about this Wo Chien, nobody playing it. It was kind of cool to see that it actually made a little bit of a run here. What I also thought was interesting is looking at Nick Navarro's team with Klefki. So Alberto Lara had this Klefki all throughout the season. Like every single, I don't think there was a single event that he didn't play this dang Klefki. And then Nick's like, alright, yoink mine now, and picks up for Worlds and gets 18th with it. That and Gastrodon and Shiyu, Baxcalibur, like, team.
Yeah, that's so funny because if you look at Nick's team, it looks straight up like a Regulation B team when Alberto got second in Oceania, right? With Klefki and Baxcalibur and, you know, Fluttermane and stuff. But then Landers just crashed the party on this Reg B team. Like, it's like, oh, okay, all right, fine. I gotta put a strong legendary on this crew for Nails.
Another really cool Pokemon. I mean, we were talking about the tragic end to Emilio's run. Like, true final boss out there. Emilio's just actually on a different level when
That Brambleghast put in work.
Brings Brambleghast to the World Championships. Gets 13th place with it. I mean, that's actually, I feel like I've seen memes about Brambleghast. They're like, yo, I swear, guys, Brambleghast can be good. It says, like, you know, a couple people that are looking for, like, come check out my team, what do you do? But, like, he actually found the 6 that enabled it well. And, like, I don't know, in a different universe, maybe we could have been talking about Brambleghast, our champion. Like, this is actually insane. Strength Sap 2, I kind of forgot about that move. The last time I saw it, like, used a lot was on, I believe it was Gelatin. Absolutely despised it, but I feel like that's actually so good going into this.
Yeah, Brambleghast could have been the new Pachirisu, right? If it wasn't for that DC. And you look at the team. Like, I was watching backstage one of his first matches on I think it was day 1 when he was on stream. I think he lost the set, but like you could just see that there was no answer for Brambleghast. Like, the only options they have are Heat Wave and Bleak Wind Storm and like all these, you know, weather-based, these wind-based moves that cannot touch Brambleghast. Like, it was just incredible. And obviously, it sucks for him, but like you have to give credit to the players that take these risks, like Wo Chien and Brambleghast and Farigiraf and Dragapult. Like, I have firmly believed, excuse me, besides the last 2 years haven't proved it, but besides the last 2 years, players who win the World Championship, they are players that take a risk and make a call on the metagame. And so obviously there's the Pachirisu, and there's Wolf with Ray Ogre and format dominated by Zerndon, and Ryota with Choice Specs Tapu Fini, Z Nature Power, Whimsicott, Paul Ruiz with Groundinium Z Gastrodon. Paul was the only Gastrodon in the entirety of Nashville, and he won the World Championships with it, right? Like, Naoto's Dragonclaw Groudon for the Mega Rayquaza matchup. Like, you always have to make a call. And so players like Emilio, or players like Joe, or players like Michael, like, you have to commend them when they essentially got the call right on what the meta was going to be.
Especially, too, when it's something that's so unexplored, like Regulation D. So it's not like other times where it was like, okay, the format's kind of gone around, and this is the call I'm going to make off of all this information that I have. Like, this is the first event that had the Regulation D. There's nothing else except, a couple of grassroots things online. So it was kind of a lot of theory, and it was a lot of players testing and kind of what they anticipated the fields might be like. And then that's also extra difficult when it is the World Championships, because based on different regions, that there's always a different play style that comes out. I'm thinking of like the Sheninja,
Yeah.
normally like it's only by like the French players and stuff like that. So it's kind of then extra bold to be making those calls and bringing such Pokemon to the World Championships and such a big call and be able to make those runs. So huge congratulations there. There's a couple of really fun teams. Barris had a Kool-Aid Breloom on the team.
Yeah.
Which was really
Jamie
cool.
Boyd built that team, right?
Yeah,
I saw online Jamie built it for him, and Barris, made it to day 2 with that Roaring Moon as well. Like, surprised that we saw multiple Roaring Moons on stream at Worlds. Crazy.
Yeah, Alberto did not bring the Clef Key, so I'll always be
sad.
A little sad about that.
Well, yeah, he must have traded it to Nails,
Yeah, it was Alara's Clef Key that he had. But one team that I wanted to talk about, this one was broadcasted. Not necessarily the greatest run, but not too shabby either. 70th place was Pedons with this Articuno that was actually cracked. So Snow Cloak for its ability, and then holding Bright Powder. I think if I went up against this team in Swiss and I kept missing my moves, like what was happening on stream, like I might have just dropped. Like honestly, this looked absolutely so frustrating to play up against, but oh my gosh, was it hilarious to watch.
Yeah, so there was a lot going on that round, and so that match, obviously, that's round 6. That's a winning into to day 2 of the Pokemon World Championships, and obviously you have Geo, who's the Dragonite comeback, and Pedon's has been playing since 2010. Is a player that hasn't really, had that breakout performance. So like the storyline there is really cool, and you just see Abomasnow and Farigiraf and Ting Lu and Articuno, and like this, honestly, like the set could not have played out any better. Like, obviously, sorry for Geo. Geo lost the set. He would have obviously preferred that, but like the audience perspective, right, the viewership perspective, that set played out flawlessly. Articuno dodged 3 attacks in a row. Like, he's setting up Roost. He's just barely living hits. Like, and I think it's neat that like Pedons, if this is his last year, I know next year he wants to get into more like TO stuff and running locals and running PCs and things like that.
Thank goodness we're saved from the Articuno.
Yeah, exactly. But like, I think that's a cool story that a player has been playing literally since Black and White. Like, made a joke with Aaron during the interview, like, you beat me 13 years ago, and I still remember it. Like, he can finally have his moment on the stream and have his big match to make it into day 2 of the World Championships. Like, there's something fitting about that storyline.
Is. And for anyone that's like, wait a second, I know what Bright Powder does, but I don't know what Snow Cloak does, to read word for word from Bulbapedia. Thanks, Bulbapedia. I love you. During hail or snow, the accuracy of any move used against a Pokemon with this ability is modified by a factor of 4 out of 5. Pokemon with this ability will take no damage from hail. Like, that's old school. But basically, your moves might miss. And then you put that with Bright Powder, and they definitely might miss. So,
yeah, and then if you click Icy Wind, which is already 95% accurate, it's already less accurate, so it's even, compounding issues when you click non-100% accurate moves, and it was actually crazy backstage watching this nimble Articuno just dodge everything.
It was crazy out in the crowd, too, so I didn't get to sit and watch every game, but just so happened that I was sitting in the crowd for that one. And it was insane. Everyone's like freaking out whenever this Articuno just misses. And as well, like, this is like the gut-dropping moment in VGC is like that moment of pause before the attack miss text. There is like, if you've played enough or you've watched enough broadcasts, you know what I mean. It's like, instead of just like, oh, it's getting hit, like there's just like this slight pause before it said the attack missed or whatever it is. And you would start to like, it's about to, like, the attack's about to hit into the Articuno, and all of a sudden you see this pause, you're like, no! Like, it was just it was so funny. So, even if 70th place, I mean, I feel like that's definitely a team in a match that was Number one
Yeah,
is
he
close
won.
to
He
in a lot of
won
people's hearts.
the weekend. Yeah, for sure. That was a really, really nice moment for Pete Ons to have there. And I know, like, I know, like, technically he didn't win, but it feels like he win. And yeah, I know Shohei is the real winner, but, Sierra, I also kind of feel like I'm the real winner here because I won the predictions. I said Japan was going to win. It's an odd year in VGC history. Japanese players just love winning the World Championships in odd year seasons. Literally, Shohei was my pick going into it. On day 2, I was looking at the field, I was like, I think Shohei's got it. And then when we got to the asymmetrical cut, so down to the 26th, that first round, we didn't get to stream it, was Shohei Kimura and Hirofumi Kimura. And so I sat there with Scott, and I was like, the winner of this match is winning the World Championship. I can guarantee you that. And look what happened.
All right, well, now I know if it's every odd year. Now I know, going on to our 2024 Worlds, when we make these predictions again, I can feel certain in not predicting on a Japanese player, because they already had their year, so...
Yeah, you gotta wait till 2025, yeah.
I gotta wait till 2025, in which case I'm gonna guess Japan right away. But 2024 Worlds, of course, Championship Sunday comes with their closing ceremonies, which comes with a whole bunch of good Pokemon news. So we got to have some DLC information. We got to see information about the other games. Unite getting 3 new characters. Mimikyu is one of them, by the way.
Yeah, the crowd popped off for Mimikyu.
Yeah, I mean, the crowd popped off for all 3. The Unite crowd always pops off. The Mimikyu, like, so funny, though. Like, it's, I'm assuming it's all when it, just, like, jumps over a Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like, it, like, kills it in its cloak, like, I don't know, sorry, KOs it, but,
Yeah, that was its Z move, let's snuggle forever.
Yeah, so it's definitely, it do be snuggling forever in the afterlife, but, yeah, exciting news. Pokemon TCG is getting Paradox, so...
Yeah,
they have it as Ancient, and I think the text was Future, I can't quite remember on
what
that
What do you suspect? Because I heard from some friends, some TCG casters backstage, I was talking with them on their prediction. What is your prediction? Like, what do you think Future and Ancient's gonna look like? Like, what's the ruling?
I just assume that there'll be like special abilities or cards that will enable them. So like,
okay, like the Beast, Ultra Beast Pokemon, like Beast Ring and stuff like that,
and like Megas and stuff, if I'm recalling right. But kind of like, maybe that there's a item card that will only attach an energy to a future Ancient Pokemon, or there'll be special energy that has an added effect if it's actually attached to an Ancient or for a future. So just kind of extra tools to make them stronger, but I don't think beyond that anything. I think it'll just be with how it's played around. But they're cool looking cards. Like I have to say, like they're sick looking cards.
Yeah, I obviously I just casually follow TCG, right? But even I thought that was cool. Like, it's always nice how it's really interesting how they can come up with a new gimmick every single year for TCG, because you'd think like they'd run out of ideas by now, but
sometimes they do, because guess what we got back?
Oh, A-Spec?
A-Spec. So, it's a little give, it's a little take. They added, they steal
A-Spec
from the past.
2.0, okay? It's a remix.
No, the hype went, the crowd went hype on that one, though, so.
Yeah, because I remember that was the first year I played was 2014, both VGC and TCG, because back in my day, you could play TCG on Saturday of a regional and bomb out, and then play the VGC best of 1 regionals.
And then bomb out of that one, too,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the first deck I ever played was the Genesect Verzian with the booster, A-Spec, whatever it was called on Genesect, do 200 more damage. That was like my first ever format, and so I guess I had a little bit of nostalgia for it when they announced the A-Spec back.
That's a big thing with TCG, is like the nostalgia of like the past formats and stuff. You always hate the current format until it's like 3-4 years old, in which case it's the best format ever. But I'm just thinking back to Zoroark, and then I hated that, but then now I'm like,
I was like, oh man, I love ADP, you know.
Okay, maybe that's the format I know. Maybe that one could stay in the past. But as well, VGC had a lot of news. Actually, before we get into that, we also got the location of the 2024 World Championships. So this one, little drum roll, we're going back to Hawaii. So
So, all right, let's have a conversation here, Sierra. And we're not talking like not the conversation that is online. Go follow your favorite geopolitical Pokemon, person on Twitter to have that conversation. We're just talking about Hawaii in general, right? I found this fascinating because I really did not think we'd like be going back. I think the last one was 2012 was the last Hawaii, right? So it'd been over a decade, and I'd always heard rumors because I didn't play at that time that there were a lot of issues that Hawaii was difficult for there ever to be a Worlds again because it's in the middle of hurricane season, right? And all these things. And then once I saw it was Hawaii, I'm like, well, now that we know it's not Boston, which a lot of people thought it was going to be Boston, it's even crazier that there are no Northeast regionals because many people had copium that, oh, there's no Northeast regionals because we're going to Boston for Worlds or something like that. So I literally, if you gave me 20 guesses, I don't know if I would have said Hawaii like in any of those 20 guesses because of hurricane season and everything like that. And I think it'd be cool if we get the opportunity to go. I've never been to Hawaii before, but like this was definitely out of left field that I was not expecting.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of reactions to the news because obviously right now there's some really devastating wildfires going on over there. So it was definitely something that when it was announced, there was like half the people that are like, yo, this is super exciting, and other half that were like, this is really bad timing. I definitely think all the time.
Very bad timing.
Like, I don't know how they get around that either. Like, that sucks. Like, the stuff does get planned out in advance. Pokemon did pledge like a large monetary sum. I forget. I think it was like 200,000.
I think it's 200,000. Yeah.
To help release and stuff. So I hope that they continue that going on forward. Interesting theory that I heard about it going back to Hawaii. They mentioned in the closing ceremonies that Pokemon has a close relationship with Hawaii and it's very fond and stuff. If we're thinking back to the canceled Worlds due to COVID, obviously there was some timeline things that it was supposed to be the first Sword and Shield that would have been in London. Then the 25th anniversary would have been Japan. And then the next year, wouldn't that have been the 10th anniversary of when the first Worlds in Hawaii happened? So, like, that was, like, if I think of the math writers... Like,
it would have been 10 years since the last one. Yeah, it would have been 2012 to 2022. Yeah.
So then, if Pokemon's talking about, like, this close relationship that they have with Hawaii, and then it's been 10 years since the last Worlds there, that could literally be it. It's been 10 years since our last Hawaii World, like, especially, too, if it was a location... Logistic issues aside for a couple of things that they're quite fond of, like that kind of makes a little bit more sense. I've also not been to Hawaii, so that's definitely interesting. I just have to say the art from the last World in Hawaii was really, really cool. So I'm excited to see the art going into next year's stuff because Japan was incredible for that.
Yeah, it is. Hawaii is definitely it's an important historical competitive Pokemon area, right? Like we had 3 World Championships there in the infancy of the competitive scene of Pokemon. I think one of them happened when we didn't even have like VG Worlds yet or something like that. Like it was just the TCG Worlds and 50 people showed up, like all those old stories. They played in black and white and not the games. Like, I mean, real life was black and white, and that's how old-timey it was, right? And so it is cool that we're going to be able to bridge the gap from those old era players that were there in 2008 or 2012 or whatever, and they can come back here 10 plus years later with the new era, the new crop of players like, Abdullah and Michael and all these players that are just getting into the scene, and Justin Tang, and they can kind of like have conversations about like the history of the game and the new big names in the game. I think that can be exciting. I think I was just so bummed that it wasn't Boston because I had put so much of my heart, like I know we joked about Milwaukee, but like so much of my heart was like, God, let's go back to Boston. Boston was such a fun World. So in the moment, I was just like shocked. But like now afterwards, I'm like, okay, it should be exciting to go to be in Hawaii next year. Like
Japan had all the extra events, but like, oh my goodness, it was too hot to enjoy.
Bro, it was bar none, Japan was the hottest I have ever been in my life. It was 100 degrees with 100% humidity every single day. And like you walked outside and you instantly wanted to take a shower. You're like, I'm already drenched. I'm already hot. Like I remember like one of your messages on your first day there, like, I thought you were gonna die, Sierra. Like
I
you
thought
were
I was gonna die too.
like I was so worried for you trying to get around. Like it was brutal. It was a wonderful country, very beautiful. Every person I interacted with was awesome. Like I loved my 2 weeks that I was there, but like man was it hot.
I was like, and I feel so bad. So like obviously my decision to go to Japan was really late, but like man, the trip just killed me, honestly. I'm still, like, I have been back for a week. I still feel so terrible. It's the heat. So, I know I joke around, yeah, I'm Canadian, can't handle the heat. No, like, I actually, like, cannot handle, like, my body cannot handle temperature changes, cold or hot. So, I don't talk about the cold one as much because Canadian, you know, you can put more on, but, like, that obviously sucks. But I also cannot handle the heat. It is also an issue with my family. My sister's, like, actually, like, gets allergic reactions to like the heat and the cold. Me, my body's just like, nah, like you suck, like it's gonna be trash. So I just have like heat exhaustion like every day. I'm surprised I didn't actually get into a level where I needed to seek help for like heat stroke or something, but like it got to a point I was nauseous all the time. I couldn't eat at all. I would be outside for a minute in the heat and like what felt like my brain swelling.
Yeah.
Like my head hurt all the time. Like it was so miserable. Like I was just trying to like survive the entire time I was there. And like I would spend like I think I slept like 12 hours in my hotel room, which was poorly air conditioned by the way, so I was still not recovering. And then the next day like try and go out with friends, and then we take a wrong turn out at the train station. We have to go for a 10-minute walk. All of a sudden that 10-minute walk, I have a headache for the next 2 days. So it was like I don't know, it was really rough. And like it definitely was one of those things that, like, for the Japan trip, like, definitely put a damper on the whole thing for me. Like, I got to go to Matsuri Park, and I got to stand in line for 2 activities, and I thought I was going to pass out. Like, I went there with Honcho and his fam, and I was like, yo, we need to go to the recovery tent. Like, I need to sit down. Like, I am not going to survive this. Like, it was rough. Like, I had the chance to even stay a few more days longer, and I was like, I'm going home. Like, I cannot stay.
No, for sure. Obviously, for anyone that wasn't there, it's really tough to describe. Like, it was also so crazy to me. Like, when I was walking around, one day I was in Osaka and we took a day trip to Kyoto and we visited temples and, you know, we hit up the Pokemon Center and stuff. And, like, just walking around the streets, remember, 100 degrees, 100% humidity. And just the Japanese culture of like modest clothing and things, and like you see people wearing full long sleeve shirts and long sleeve jeans and a jacket, and I'm just like, and I'm just a pool of sweat walking by this person, right? And I'm just like, what is going on? Are we in the same world? Do they have a secret fan somewhere that they're hiding, that they're wearing all these clothes and this leather?
They're actually, I don't know if you saw the rings around people's neck. Yeah. There was like things that like people would put on their neck to cool them down, or add fans. Like
I had a little fan that I was just all over at all times. Just like one of the times, like it ran out of battery when we were on the train, and I was like, "Oh my god, I hope I make it back to the hotel before I die." Yeah, like I had just used too much of the fan there, but like I don't know if you just want to like talk about some things we did here. Now we kind of wrapped up on some of the metagame. Like I went to Osaka, obviously Yokohama, did Akihabara afterwards, and was like playing the arcades and picking up manga and stuff. Like it was such a cool experience, and I felt like 95% of people spoke English, which was like really cool. I was ready to have to Google Translate everything, but most interactions you're able to get through. Most menus, they had an English menu and stuff, and like the food was delicious. The 7-Elevens, like the food was cheap. You could buy 10 things for like 500 yen. Like it was like, I know you and I bonded over the rice balls. Like it's just every time I woke up, every time we left the building, I had to go to 7-Eleven, pick up like a monster and a rice ball, and like to start my day. And like when I came home, pick up, you know, like this like strawberry water, you know, drink and another rice ball to bring back to the hotel room. Like it was just, there was so much about the trip that was just amazing.
You know what was surprisingly good in Japan? Pizza Hut.
You had Pizza Hut in Japan?
Oh,
What?
it got to the point I was so sick, like I could not like thinking about the rice balls and thinking about anything I could eat just made me feel so sick. I was just like I was having a tough time, and I'm like I really just need something that like like when you feel sick and you just like want some plain crackers or some plain toast, and I'm like I need some plain pizza, man. Like I tried to have pizza at the convention center the day before, and it was like this teriyaki chicken with like corn and seaweed on it. It wasn't it. So it was like 10 in the morning. I ordered myself a pepperoni pizza, and it was like a godsend. So like it was actually really
when we were in Akihabara, I went to a Denny's, and it was like
Denny's?
but it was just in Japanese. I'll send you the photo. Like instead of saying Denny's, it was Denny's in Japanese, and like you sit down and like it's a surreal experience because it's a Denny's 100%, but like they're serving fish instead of like the American like Grand Slam and stuff, and the meats are different. But like that was my one. Like I never had McDonald's or KFC or anything, but like my one American meal in Japan was at a Denny's.
Hanging out with Ugarte, of course, he has many allergies, so I got accustomed to a lot of the American food, so Shake Shack, McDonald's, especially too, as soon as you get a group of VGC players together and they don't know what to eat, so they go to McDonald's or Shake Shack, so that tended to be kind of like the vibe for
There was no Raising
time.
Cane's for Joe?
There was no Raising Cane's, so there was, if there was a Raising Cane's in Japan, that would actually be crazy, but, it got to the point where I just wasn't eating it. So it was okay. In the early days, though, I got to get, like, good ramen from a place, I got to find gyoza that was absolutely amazing, so I definitely got a little bit. I went to one of those conveyor belt sushi places.
Nice.
We actually found the one that had the tatsugiri plate, the different tatsugiris.
That's awesome.
I tried to take a video of myself like eating one, saying order up, and then I dropped the entire thing. It was pretty funny, but it was pretty cool. Plus, like if you ate like 5 plates of sushi, there was like this little gotcha thing. So there's this video screen that played out like a little animation, and you either won or lost. And if you won, they had these Pokemon coins that would then like come out of the suspensory thing out top. So that was kind of fun. So
now, did you play a lot of like gotcha stuff or like the crane games or anything? Like did you fall victim to them?
I did not. So I hung out with a group that was like dead set on trying to get like those big fluffy like Plusle and Minun plushies. They finally got the Plusle at the end. I didn't think they were going to for a while. I spent like my 500 yen. I knew if I started taking out money to like throw at these machines, I would have spent money on these machines. So it was kind of like you know what? I've spent enough at the Pokemon centers there. Like I am gonna respectfully bow out of this because I already know.
Yeah, I was for the most part for the same, like, but just like more defeatist because like I did try when we were in Osaka. I was trying to get this Demon Slayer statue that it's over in my room. I don't want to go grab it. And I spent maybe like 1,000 yen on it, so like 10 tries, and I'm like, whatever. I'm just like, whatever. It's not meant to be. And that's just I'm done. Like stupid gotcha. And then we go to this like bookstore that sells manga and video games and statues, and I see the Demon Slayer statue, and I was like, it was like 1,200 yen or something. Like I was like, well, I have to because I'm gonna spend way more than 1,200 yen on the stupid claw machine trying to win it. So like I got the statue I wanted, but like I didn't actually win it the way that everyone else won their prizes. There were so many great like Rosemary and Lou also got those Plusle and Minun plushes at the arcade. Like they were literally there. I have no idea how much they spent. I know Gabby also got this huge plush that like we're literally like trying to like do math and like looking at like every side and like
yes,
like
that's how it was with
there's
our
like
group.
there was literally like 6 of us at the start with Rose and Lou trying to get plus level mine. Okay, little bit, no, too far. Like, and they're like, you know, and like at the end they both got the plus level momentum, and just like everybody popped off like they just won the Super Bowl. Like it was so much fun. The other best part at the end of just the last one was there's a lot of VGC people after Worlds. On the Sunday night at the after party, they went to a round one, which has arcades and, you know, things like that. We have round ones in America too. And so Aaron Cybertron Zhang, he is a dedicated man. He sat there at the Snoopy plush machine, like Snoopy from Charlie Brown. He just kept putting 100 yen coins in, and there was a crowd of like 15 people watching Aaron go for this Snoopy. And it's like, oh, he just misses. And like the attendant would come in and open the case and like put Snoopy on the edge and then close it, and then Aaron would pick it up again and it would fall back into the pit, like not falling under, you know, like he would try to help it. Like all these people, like Aaron, I have no idea how much Aaron spent on that.
Did he
Snoopy.
get it in the end?
He got it. Everybody popped off. It was well deserved. So I hope Aaron is appreciating that Snoopy now in his apartment.
It's like the funniest atmosphere, like the group around, because like we got the Minum and the Plusle, like the same thing you were talking about with the casters, like, oh, a little bit this way, except the thing was teetering on the edge, and it was like a bunch of people like kind of sitting around watching and theorizing. Oh, if you hit it on this side, it should go. No, if you hit it on this one, and like everyone's getting like real physics with it and like trying to figure out, and it would just hit like a little bit. It ended up getting to the point where like there was kids that were also at the arcade that were kind of like watching over to see kind of maybe like I don't know if they're curious and watching. I don't know if they were trying to like steal the machine because we had to keep sending people to go back and get more. Like, I don't know. We got it at the end though, and it was the same thing. Like there is the big so
yeah.
I know that's the best part. I feel like the only gambling I really did. So I went to multiple Pokemon centers, spent way too much money.
Same.
But there is these little figurines in like this plastic bag, and it looked like they came in a yellow Pokeball. So it was like, oh, you had to open the Pokeball, and there's a figurine inside. And then obviously it is a random one. Cool. And when you get to the checkout, they like warn you stuff about them, but nobody spoke English. So they're just like pointing to it, and I'm just kind of figuring they're pointed to the fact you only get one. All right, cool. Open it up. It's a bath bomb. Like, they're trying to tell me it's a bath bomb. I wasn't gonna get this thing.
Like, well, lather up.
So I've got like 5 bath bombs in my luggage that I'm just like, all right. It is also the most horrendous yellow color. So Steve, Pokemon Cast, did actually throw one of the bath bombs like in the bath and like took a video of like the color and stuff, and it does not turn out a very nice color. So, well, I might just watch them. I don't know. I'll see. Maybe I'll give them as gifts to people who would actually use them. But yeah, I thought that was really funny. That was like my one little, oh, I'll gamble on this, and they all ended up to be bath bombs.
Like the other FOMO I had when we were in Yokohama for the Pokemon Center, which, I mean, that was all just crazy. I know we met up on Thursday night. You and I were both just dying. I was waiting on my brother. You were waiting on Joe to get out, and like they were just trapped. They were just prisoners in that building for an hour as we were sitting outside in the heat waiting for them because of how they're like checking out, and there was thousands of people checking out the Pokemon Center, just taking forever. And like when I went through the center, my FOMO moment, every section we went to was like signs that say you can only take one of each of these things, like the statues or the stickers or pins or whatever. I was like, well, I guess that means I have to take one of each, right? Because like those are the commodities, those are the big things. Like, so that's how they got me. I spent so much money on things. I was like, I don't really want this water bottle, but like they said I'm only allowed to take one, so I guess I should take one and put it in the bag. They got me. Pikachu got me.
The worst part is I know what you're talking about. So I got to go to the Pokemon Center early. Pokemon gave me a creator pass, so thank you, Pokemon, for that. And literally, so first off, the first thing I went for was one of the Bearwalker skateboards. The reason why? There's only 500 and you're only allowed one. So what did I do? Oh my god, I need one. I didn't buy the skateboard last year. I don't have any of the skateboards, but all of a sudden I was told that I'm only allowed one and only 500 people are getting one. I'm like,
now you have to have it. Yeah.
I have to get one. And same with, like, everything. I did do a semi-smart thing, and after I went and picked up everything that I just threw into the bag, like, on FOMO, like, I need one of each figure, I need one of each plush, I need one of everything. I got to the end right before the checkout, and I took everything out and, like, looked through, and then had, like, the moment of, like, okay, well, I don't actually like the Quaxley statue at all. I actually hate Quaxley, so, like, I can put this back. Okay, and then, like, I don't need this. So, like, I did put something.
You saved some
back.
money.
Yeah, I still spent too much, though. But it's okay. I got a couple of presents. So it was my mom's birthday, and, like, she actually really likes Pokemon. I also didn't get her a shirt in London last year, and she was really disappointed about that. I said, I would find her one on eBay. She said it wasn't the same. So, like, first thing I had to do was go and find her a shirt. So she still doesn't have it yet. So if she listens to this first, sorry to spoil the surprise, but I got gifts. I got stuff for my cat sitter. So, like, it wasn't necessarily all for me, but, like, oh my god, I still spent too much money. Like, I don't even.
Yeah, I was mainly selfish. I got a couple of little things for some friends, but. One friend wanted a jersey, right? Because they want to just collect the World's jersey every year. So, like, if you go in there, can you get that? Because I have no interest. I've never bought the jerseys. And it was a madhouse. It was like The Walking Dead in there. Like, people were literally just, like, grabbing stuff. Like, so I'm fighting off, Pokemoms that are trying to take two and they can only have one and all this stuff. And, like, I got to get out of this section. And so I just see the jerseys and I see 1XL. And I'm like, all right, I know sizes are, like, different, whatever. And so I grab the XL and I just move and I run. And I get out and I'm like...
You just run away.
Yeah,
fight me for this jersey.
Yeah, and I was like, here you go, bro. And he looks at it, he's like, this is a youth extra large. And I was like, okay. And he just hands it back to me. He's like, thanks for the thought, though. So now I just have a youth extra large, Yokohama jersey.
Hey, if it fits me, I'll buy it off of you. So if you don't want it, I didn't get a jersey. I didn't really want it.
No, it's small. I opened it.
It is, like, even if it's an extra large, like, because that'd be a medium.
But no, like, I'm telling you, it was small. Like,
small.
Like, I have a cousin. I was like, all right, I have young cousins that are in, like, second, third grade or whatever. And so they're like 9, 10 years old. And I'm looking at them like,
still too small?
And I'm like, I'm like, this might fit them for a year, but, like, they might grow out of it, like, immediately once they get to middle school.
Well, I mean, you're kind of smart to, like, run after getting that. Thinking
dude, it was so hectic in there. It was crazy.
Did you hear about the fight on Sunday?
No.
Yeah. So, you know how I was talking about the skateboard, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't put all the skateboards out right away. They actually, with a lot of their stock, so depending on the time you went, it sucked or it was good for you, but they kept putting out new stock, like, every morning or, like, different times during the day. So instead of doing it all at once. So if you went at a bad time on Friday, you might not get what was actually available early Sunday because they were kind of limiting things, which makes sure that they can have stuff through the weekend. But something that they limited was skateboards. Obviously, there's 500. So they're only putting out a certain amount per day. And so Sunday, obviously, early morning was the last chance to get some. Apparently, there was a fist fight in the Pokemon Center over these skateboards, and the police had to be called, and 2 people got arrested.
Wow, I did not hear about this.
Yeah, the only reason I heard about it was because I brought my skateboard on the Sunday to get signed by Bear Walker, and I was carrying it around, and somebody's like, oh, were you there this morning when, like, because assuming I bought it that morning, were you there this morning when the fight happened? I'm like, no. Like, what? They're like, did you have to fight somebody for that?
Wow,
so,
that's very much not spirit of the game, right? That is not spirit of Pokemon to get into fisticuffs over a skateboard.
Yo, the amount of people that tried to buy that skateboard off of me, too, on the Sunday, because I was walking around with it, right? And people kept coming up to me. There must have been, like, 12, 15 people that, like, came up, like, hey, are you selling that? Are you interested in selling? Like, yo, and, like, this was in, like, a small amount of time, too. This was just trying to leave the venue, right? So we had stopped. There was a kid who was looking for trades in Pogo. And so I handed the skateboard off to a friend. In, like, this 5-minute span, he had 10 people come up to him trying to buy the skateboard off of him. It's crazy. But,
500's such a low amount too for them to
yeah.
make. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's the thing. It's limited. Each one of them too has a little certificate on the inside, so you can see what number you were. So I was 178.
Well, Sierra, it was actually just all the content creators bought 6 skateboards each. Actually, that's what I saw online. So,
Yep, selling them after the event. Obvious sarcasm for anyone out there, by the way. It was one per person, but yeah, no, it was insane. But hey, even if there was a lot of things about the worlds, like I don't know, it was still fun overall. I'll have to say so.
For sure, it was definitely memorable. Like I didn't spend too much time out in the hall except for like when I came to visit you on Sunday before VGC started because I was just backstage like 7 a.m. every day. But like seeing the big Gyarados like mouth that people walk through and stuff like that in the venue and all the updated signs with the like the banners, I should say, with the new Pokemon and the new like colorful Slitherwing. Yes, exactly. Like there is something about the appeal of like being at a Pokemon event like in person. You just can't describe it to your friends or your family when they're just watching the stream or they know you go to like when you're a big Pokemon fan and the culmination of all your love and passion for this game and this community and like you get to be in person. There is something about that aura that is just like, electric. It's just so awesome.
And the one thing that I wish, which I understand venue size, logistic wise, it couldn't have happened. I wish more people were allowed to go to the event. So on Sunday in particular is when I saw it, though it happened all the days. But there was people that were just like standing like at the entrance and the exit, like trying to peer in. Like there was dozens of people that were trying to just take a little bit of a look inside to try and see anything that was going on. And I felt bad because I'm like, we're talking about how much we enjoy the events, and I'm like, they can't even go in and see. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I felt so bad. I had an extra spectator badge on me on the Sunday, and there was like this, I don't know, there was somebody outside, like this teenager that I think had something on his phone, like trying to ask for a badge from anyone so he could go inside. So I gave him the badge. He just runs inside. He's like, I don't know how long he had been waiting there, but he just runs. Like, he's gone. And I'm like, oh, I just felt so bad that like there's so many people that are just like standing there, like fans that can't actually go inside. And like there was families too, but I only had one badge, right? So it's like, can't give a badge to a family because then they can't all go in.
Yeah.
I'm just like, man, like.
It was definitely a rough situation, especially from like other worlds that we've had where like I remember Boston and Nashville and DC, like it was just like super easy to get a spectator badge, and the last couple of years has been a little more it's a different world we're in now, right? Obviously, when compared to DC or Nashville, but like it definitely is frustrating when you know there are people that are missing out on those same opportunities that we get to enjoy.
So all right, I think that'll be our last bummer note for the broadcast. Yeah. I mean, for the podcast, so we can talk about good things, because something that we kind of glossed over with the closing ceremonies, we talked about TCG, we talked about Unite. We didn't actually talk about this VGC news that we got. We got new Pokemon. We got like this new mysterious Terra. Like, there's so many things. So talking about the Pokemon first, I mean, there was speculation that there was going to be more paradoxes. Obviously, if you've played the game, there's the books that talk about the different things. That's when we got, was it Iron Leaves and then Walking Wake?
Mm-hmm.
And we got 2 new Pokemon, so, which there's some mixed opinions on. First off, Iron Crown, Steel Psychic type, and then Raging Bolt, which I kind of like the Raging Bolt.
I think
it's kind of cute.
I think cute. The Raging Bolt design's a different thing. Like
it's just a little lightning giraffe boy.
Yeah,
you know?
the design is different. That's the one thing. But like, I feel like so many of the future, especially future Paradox Pokemon names, are Iron Crown. He straight up doesn't even have a crown on. If you look at this futuristic Cobalion in the photo, he's not even wearing a crown. He's got his horns still. They're just like robotic. Like, why are you called Iron Crown if you don't have a crown? But I think all the past like maybe that's why most people like the past Paradox Pokemon more, like Roaring Moon, Fluttermane, Brute Bonnet, Great Tusk, like, Walking Wake, and then you're like, Iron Leaves, like, compared
Iron
to,
Hands.
yeah,
Iron
compared to, Raging Bolts, like, it sounds so much cooler, but, I think it's going to be interesting. I wonder what happens with because the DLC's coming out, the first half of DLC's coming out in September, right? And so it is cool that we have the connection. Like Walking Wake is Water Dragon, and Raging Bolt is Electric Dragon. So obviously Entei is going to be Fire Dragon, and then Virizion was Psychic Grass, and Cobalion is Steel or Psychic Steel. So Terrakion is going to be Psychic Rock. Like I like how there is some thought behind these new Paradox Pokemon, and I wonder if they're coming out in the first half of the DLC, which I'm not sure if they are or not. Like, is Regulation E, like, we're just adding, it's going to be Regulation D, but we add the new Paradox Pokemon or something? Like, that might be cool.
Yeah, I'd assuming that's how it would go down, because, like, these two are going to be added in the Teal Mask. That's the first part of the DLC, so I don't really imagine, because like if they were coming out later, then I would understand. Obviously with Iron Leaves and Walking Wake, that was kind of a weird release cycle for them. They came out within the raids, but if something's coming out in the beginning of the DLC, if it is going to be that Regulation E is including Pokemon that are added in the DLC, since there is going to be Pokemon that are just returning into our decks, I'd imagine that they would be legal, right? So it'd be interesting to see, especially too Raging Bolts, so they got new moves, and it has a move called Thunderclap, which is basically electric type Sucker Punch. So I think that just sounds so cool.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely going to be good. There's not a lot of do we know if it's special or physical off the top of our head? I'm trying to look right now at it, if it's a special. Thunderclap Electric deals increased priority. So I'm not sure if it's a physical or a special attack, but giving electric Pokemon priority is like it's a real game changer, because it's one of those offensive types, right? Like electric just does damage. It hits everything neutrally except for ground, which is immune, right? And grass. Like, it's a really strong offensive typing. So if this thing can set up, let's say if it is a physical move, can it be Swords Dance Thunderclap? Or if it is a special attack, can we do Calm Mind Thunderclap onto it? Like, and just have priority boosted strong electric attacks. Like, if I was wagering which of these two new Paradox Pokemon is going to be stronger, like, I would bet that Raging Bolt is going to be stronger than the Iron Crown.
So obviously there's not really too much information about Thunderclap, because like we just get like those little snippets. I will say that as of this moment, even though it is like the article is about a expected future event, so information can change. Right now they do have it down as a special attack.
Okay.
So whether that is more like, whether there's too much basis to that, whether they just had to put a categorization there, I'm not sure. So I don't have the information to take that as 100% fact, but that is currently... Because
that's also huge when Incineroar comes back. That you're not going to get hurt by Intimidate, right? So
yeah, 100%. So that'll be really cool. The other signature attack I don't think is quite as cool. Maybe just because I don't like Iron Crown as much. I think it's just, I don't know. I think all of the Violet Paradox Pokemon are boring, personally. But this one, I don't know how to say the first part of the name. I'm not gonna lie.
Tachyon Cutter?
Is that it?
I think it's Tachyon Cutter. I could be wrong.
All right, but it's 2-hit, and this one actually says like 2-hit special steel type attack that bypasses accuracy check and will hit 2 times. So the example that they used it on was on a Mimikyu, obviously.
They did Mimikyu so dirty in that video.
I know, right?
Yeah,
like we had Mimikyu had its time to shine and unite, so now I have to bring it back down to earth, right?
Yeah, because, like, obviously that's the first thing you would think of, right? Like, you'd think, okay, breaking a sash and then knocking a Pokemon out. But, like, Mimikyu's not, nobody's playing Mimikyu. You could have broke Wo-Chien's sash. You could have broke somebody else that uses a focus sash and knocked it out. Poor little Mimikyu has to take the double steel attack.
Or Mimikyu. But
I meant Chien-Pao sash. As I said Wo-Chien, I realized it was wrong. Chien Pao sash.
I just thought you were Wo Chien build for a second. That's it. That's it.
No, because he's ice type. He's weak to steel. Chien Pao is what I meant.
Okay, some more DLC information as well. This was actually really fun to sit out in the crowd for. I feel like it was very obvious we're going to get the rest of the starters at some point, right? Like, we got some. Why wouldn't we get them all? They always add all the starters back in. But sitting there with a group of VGC players, as they saw a little Litten out there, and you get the mixed reactions of, yes! And
No!
like, priceless. Like, mixed reactions. Like, when they see the Bulbasaur, like, Venusaur and stuff, obviously, like, there's something that could actually better off in Sun. So it was just, the mixed reactions to that was just so funny.
Yeah, I think, like, the closest comparison with the Litten there is, in 2016 World, so for, with Sun and Moon coming up, and you saw Kangaskhan in the Sun and Moon decks in the trailer, and you just dealt with 3 years of Mega Kangaskhan domination, and everyone was like, no! And we didn't know at that point, Megas wouldn't come back till 2018, and they got rid of Power Up Punch, and they nerfed the Parental Bond and stuff like that, so just seeing just the Incineroar come back just gives, like, war flashbacks to when they showed Kangaskhan and Smeargle in the Sun and Moon one.
I wonder if they would ever consider removing Parting Shot from Incineroar. Chance to...
So...
Because they have been changing a couple of Pokemon around.
Like, Rillaboom lost Grassy Glide, right?
Yeah.
But,
so,
like, I don't know, because Parting Shot... So this might be a hot take, or people might not agree with it, like, but Parting Shot thematically makes way more sense on Incineroar than U-Turn does. So I feel like if they're going to get rid of one, yeah, U-Turn is not as broken as Parting Shot is, but Parting Shot, he's literally a heel wrestler. Like, he's saying mean things to you on his way out. Like, it just thematically makes so much sense for Incineroar to have.
I don't disagree with you. Don't get me wrong. I also didn't think they were going to remove Grassy Glide from Rillaboom, though, you know? So it's kind of one of those... And, like, I don't think I would see them removing Fake Out. I don't think they would take Intimidate off of it. So I'm thinking just in a world where Incineroar did come back changed, and maybe they don't touch it. I don't know. Maybe they actually just don't see, like, any issue with it, which I think is also fine. I don't necessarily... Obviously, Incineroar is strong. We're also in a format where Fluttermane has, like, 8% usage out of World? Like, you know? Mm-hmm. So they might keep it. But I think I'd be intrigued to see if there is. Because obviously we can get as excited or as, oh no, doom and gloom about these returning Pokemon as much as we want, but we don't actually know as of this moment if they're unchanged heading into the next generation, just like the Kangaskhan of the past.
Yeah, and the other thing is we don't know how the metagame changes. Like you said, Fluttermane's really good, but, like, remember at the beginning of Scarlet and Violet when we found out Grimmsnarl got Parting Shot and everyone was freaking out because Grimmsnarl was on every team in Sword and Shield, and we're like, oh my god, you just made Grimmsnarl even better. But then we looked, okay, well, Parting Shot, Prankster Parting Shot's not as good as Incineroar using it, because then something else is switching in and taking that damage, or Incineroar takes the hit and then switches out. Like, so even if something is revealed, we got to see how the metagame shakes up and if it's actually going to be a big deal or not.
Okay, there is one Parting Shot Grimmsnarl for World Championships, 26th place. Thank you very much. But
there you go.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I like that they're adding and changing a lot for the DLC as well, because we actually got Pokemon news the day of recording this podcast of a brand new Pokemon, new convergent species for this Poltergeist, I think is how it's pronounced. So that's definitely interesting. I don't know if it's going to be good. Offhand, I'm just like, I think it might be niche. I don't know if it's going to be good, but it's definitely a really interesting looking Pokemon. Well,
it is our, 87th Ghost Grass type Pokemon, so I think
that was personal there.
No, it definitely makes sense when you watch the video. Obviously, it's spooky and it terrorizes people and, puts the matcha tea on them and you're like, oh, God. So the video, I think the reveal video was really cool. I think a lot of people online were saying it was one of the most fun Pokemon reveals, we've seen. But it is, kind of weird because is it just gonna have the same stats as Poltergeist or Sinistea, whichever, if it has an evolution, and Sinistea hasn't really been great in VGC in the last 2 generations that it's been around in, right? So I I don't know if its stats are going to be good, but that ability, the hospitality ability, just to heal your teammate on switching, in theory, has some potential, right? Because you have, let's say you have a Citrus Berry Amoonguss. So you get hit, your Citrus Berry activates, you regenerate her out, you come back in later and take a hit, and then the Poltergeist comes in and heals you up even more. Like, I think there's a lot of like stall tactics that might potentially work out well. Maybe a Citrus Berry Harvest Pokemon like Trevenant, or I think Alolan Executor gets that same combination as well. So there's a chance, but I'm just not sure.
See, the thing is, so offhand with the stats, so the other convergent species, I believe, do have the same stats as the base. So I feel like it's a pretty good guess that it's going to be getting the same stats as the Poltergeist. Also, second, really missed opportunity with the hospitality name to have it hospitality, like spelled E-A at the end. So I'll never forgive them for that one, personally.
That is a missed opportunity. I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
So that's a little tragic. I just thinking about the Pokemon, because I'm thinking about the fact that it is heal on switch in. So it'll depend on how much, and then I feel like you would have to have such a team like dedicated around that, because if you're switching it out so you can switch it back in, then all of a sudden you're switching then something in to then get hit, right? So it has a move that will allow it to like turn out to then come back in. Maybe it could be a little better. It would also depend on like its actual move pool itself, because if you just have a Pokemon that like passively heals your Pokemon, like why not just run? Like you can just have Amoonguss and Pollen Puff.
And Pollen Puff, exactly.
You know what I mean? So there's other. I mean, you look at Gothitelle, like there's other things too that I think that then that base Pokemon would have a lot more utility. So I think the Poltergeist would actually have to have a pretty good moveset beyond that to have so much use. But I definitely will agree, like the cinematic they did about that and like the reveal and stuff was pretty cute, and it is really exciting to see that they're adding so much to these DLCs that it can actually be like impactful. Like it makes me. I don't know, it makes me hopeful. Like, you never know with the DLCs, like, what exactly is going to be going down, but they already seem to be, like, a lot more full than the Sword and Shield ones, which is exciting.
No, for sure. There's, like, brand new forms. If you think about it, like, Sword and Shield, the first one was the two Urshifu forms, and then the Galarian birds, right? So you got to choose an Urshifu, and then you could get one of each of the Kanto birds as Galarian forms, and then second version had Regieleki and Catlarex and Spectrier and Glacier and them. Like, it seemed like kind of segmented, but this DLC seems like there's a lot more upfront stuff to appreciate, more than just these new legendary Pokemon that'll be in the DLC storyline.
Yeah, it seems like even like more minor things, like obviously, like I don't think the Poltergeist is going to be like, oh, there is this big battle tower that you have to go get the Sir Cubchoo and the Sir Chifu through. Like they actually just seem like small additions to the world that will then kind of round it out, which is then exciting, because like I don't want to just play for like the one.
And even the new moves, right? Like in other DLC, like you had Pokemon come in and get new moves as new Pokemon or whatever, but like we have two other moves they showed off at World. So the first one was Psychic Noise, Psychic type attack. It deals damage and prevents the target from recovering HP through moves, items, or abilities for a certain number of turns. So we don't know if it's 3 turns or 5 turns or whatever, but they show a Dondozo not being able to recover leftovers. And I think that's going to be, if this Poltergeist strategy becomes really strong, obviously maybe this Psychic Noise will pick up in popularity.
Right, that would be cool. But I think the other move that they showed was a lot more potential for having a big impact, because this move is cool. So this one, Upper Hand, fighting type physical move that deals damage and flinch the target as long as said target selected a priority attack the current turn. So it's like take out Sucker Punch. So if you're like, I don't know, like that just sounds so cool.
This is an open team sheet nightmare, Upper Hands, because just
oh my God, no.
Just seeing it on your opponent's Pokemon's team sheet, you're every turn going to wonder if they're going to click it, right? So I think this move, especially because it's on fighting types, so they show Hariyama in the DLC in the trailer, but I'm sure he's not the only fighting type that's going to get Upper Hands. Like, I think this move definitely has a chance to be massive in the metagame.
all depends on what Pokemon get it. And then 100% agree, especially too just with like the mind games. I could also see them doing the thing where they bring out this really cool move and then it's on no actual good Pokemon.
Yeah.
So, yo, what if this world Incineroar gets upper hand?
No, why would you wish that into existence? Don't give Game Freak ideas.
I love the I'm just saying upper hand wrestling type Pokemon. I mean, if you're thinking of things that are on par for it.
I'm just saying last episode we're like, what if Jet Punch hit through Protect? And like, don't give Game Freak ideas. And now you're sitting here like, what if Incineroar gets upper hand? Like, they're listening, Sierra. We have to be responsible.
Yo, if it happens, I apologize. That's all I'll say. But I mean, it would be kind of funny though.
Yeah, because you know the other Incineroar has Fake Out, right? So that's why I said it's an open team sheet nightmare. Like, who's gonna Fake Out? Who's gonna upper hands? Who's gonna manual switch? Who's gonna parting shot instead? Calling the upper hand.
That's gonna be the worst 50-50 in existence.
That's what I'm telling you, bro.
That would be alright. That's what Incineroar users get. I'm just kidding, but I don't know. I don't know. It could be fun, but that is a lot of talking about the DLC.
Well, wait. We have one last thing. One important thing, Sierra.
I know.
What do you think this 19th terrestrialization type
Oh my goodness, I almost forgot about that
thingy is going to be? Because when I saw them like flipping through the Terra types, I was like, wait. Like I was like, wait, no, are we going to be able to change mid-match? Like, no, this is going to be crazy. And then you see the rainbow hexagon come up, and it's just like they don't tell us what it does, and I'm like, no, what does this do?
I have never heard so many theories being thrown around as when it was flicking through all the different Terra types. I heard like about the changing, I heard about dual types, I heard about all of this, and then it lands on Rainbow. I have absolutely no clue whatsoever because it was very clearly listed as a rainbow. So the example they use, they have a Baxcalibur, and it has this rainbow terrestrialization, and next to it is Terra Blast, where it literally also shows up as a rainbow. So one little quick note that I had is it looks like that, you know, like that Terra Turtle that they have in the Indigo disc. It looks like that, so I think it'll be very related to that, which I think is nice for answers, because I was really curious and how the heck the turtle was, you know, designed like that. The most popular theories that I've seen was that it would just, like, you don't take any weaknesses, but, like
that seems
super effective against you, but also, like, I don't know, not really.
I don't know, that seems
either.
So it also says in this article here that in the video when he clicks the Rainbow Terra, it's just and the Terra Blast is just neutrally effective against the Dragonite. So my thought is it's like Zacian and Zamazenta and Eternatus, and my initial thought is that Terra Blast is going to do double damage to terrestrialized Pokemon. That's what I'm thinking. Because, like, I don't think it's you're going to become all 18 types, because everyone knows that trivia question. If one Pokemon has all 18 types, what are they weak to? And you're just weak to rock, and everything else is neutral, right? So I don't think that's going to be that, because it just doesn't seem like that interesting. Like, I don't think people are going to want to become neutral to everything and weak to rock, like as a mechanic. It doesn't sound that fun. So if this is kind of like an anti-Terra, like if you're Tomoya, who won Worlds without clicking his Terra button, if you're like using a team that doesn't rely on terrestrializing as much as some of the other teams do, and you're just using it as like a anti-Terra mechanic or something, I think that's my prediction, but obviously I could be wrong.
See, I think instead of it like you're every type, so you're only weak to rock, like I feel like Pokemon's gonna kind of like bypass that little bit of trivia and just be like, every hit is neutral against you, you neutral hit with Terra Blast. So then that way too, like Baxcalibur sitting across from Dragonite, like you're not gonna get blasted by an Outrage for super effective. It's just gonna take the hit neutral, and like everything is then neutral against you. So
that would make stalls so good though.
Like that's kind of like what my impression of was it, considering it was just effective, and I feel like that would kind of make the most sense with how it's then a rainbow type. because then it's like beyond the trivia of actually being Wicked Rock, it would just be like, you're everything, so like it's all good. So I don't know, because that was, I don't know, it was so confusing. What I thought was
we'll
really
find out soon
funny,
enough. Yeah,
we'll find out soon enough. What was really funny is all the VGC players, of course, freaking out. And everyone's like, what is this? What is this? And there's this person, like a row or two behind, no clue who they were, absolutely none. We were like sitting way out in like the crowd, and they're like, they're about to show you, like they said it like snarky under their breath to like somebody else, and then the trailer cuts off and it doesn't actually explain more. And I just thought it was the funniest thing, because here they are trying to be like snarky,
being
like,
a jerk, yeah.
show you. As everyone's freaking out, and then they don't actually show anything.
I think everyone should have been obligated to just turn around and stare at that person.
I had no clue who it was. I don't know
here's
how
your
close
attention
they
you're
were.
looking for. You're wrong, buddy.
I don't think even anyone else heard it. It was the funniest little side comment when they didn't actually show anything whatsoever. Like, I hope you feel really good
like
about yourself right now.
the sass into being immediately wrong,
right?
It's just perfect.
Oh my gosh, it was so funny. So that was a highlight right there of all things. So shout out to that person. They did not give us any information. Thank you very much. But
September 13th, Sierra.
September 13th. That's like the day after Pittsburgh, right?
I think it's 2 days after or something like that. Yeah.
So everyone can enjoy Regulation D. I don't think we'd get too much more DLC information before things come out. I feel like we've gotten a lot, and like we're just a couple weeks out of the DLC. I don't know. Maybe it'll be like one more little snippet, but I think they've kind of spoiled us with like news about this.
Yeah, I think the last couple generations they have liked to keep some things secret and let players realize it for themselves in the game. Like I remember, I think it was like Mr. Rhyme in Sword and Shield, and there were like other Berserker was never shown in any footage right before Sword and Shield came out. So like, I think there were other Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet as well that we didn't know about. So I think that like there's a chance that the Entei and the Terrakion, like they might just not tell us. So we have to do the DLC storyline, and then we like find those new Paradox forms and be like, whoa, look at this. I don't know, look at this Tyrannosaurus Rex that's Entei. Like, you know.
That would be dope.
Yeah, that would be dope.
That'd be cool. I think it might be a Stegosaurus though, like little.
It could be.
He's on its back, but they're actually little like fire tiles. I don't know. It could be cool, but considering it's called Mystery of Area Zero, like I feel like that's definitely. There should be so much more about that. So I'm definitely excited for the DLC. Hopefully we get the date for the second one soon. But we can even deep dive into things a little bit more next week, as we have talked a lot about it this week. But of course, if we're getting to the end of our podcast, this is the thing that I thought you were going to say that we forgot about before, that I didn't forget about. This is our question of the day.
Oh, I forgot about that. I couldn't bring it up because I forgot that we had a question of the day.
Oh, well, there you go. I forget about our 19th mysterious rainbow terror type. You forget about our question of the day, but it's a good question, so I had to make sure that we included it. So anyone listening in, of course, if you have a question for us, whether it's about Pokemon or casting or whatever, let us know. And this week's question of the week comes from Less Than Awesome 1 from YouTube. So I feel bad saying that name, Less Than Awesome. You're more than awesome, friend. But good question. When you are casting, do you coordinate your pin with the person you are casting with? This is such a good question, because I don't think that they realize how much casters love their Pokemon pins.
Okay, so this is a particularly good question, specifically with me as well, right? So for anyone who doesn't know, I'm the pin guy backstage. I actually, hold on. Literally, I have
you
it.
Got the bag?
I have the bag right here. I have a Ziploc bag of just.
Pin
I have to put all my.
right here.
Yeah, I have to put all my pins from Worlds, like the Pikachu pins and stuff like that. So I have that on me, on my person, at all times when we're at regionals and ICs and stuff like that. And all the casters just come and like, oh, can I borrow Yveltal today? Can I borrow Mewtwo or whatever? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And most of the time they remember to give it back by the end of the...
Just at me next time. You know it's always
no,
me
it's not.
never
No. You're not that bad. So Butters has had my Charizard for about 4 months at this point. And Gabby actually had my Dragonite from pre-COVID, and she gave it back to me this year. So actually, you're in the clear, Sierra.
Well, I think I still have 2 of your. I think I've stolen 2 different.
That's okay. Pins. We'll figure it out. It always
is my Pokemon, so like they're my.
Yeah, it always works out.
Given, right?
So I think sometimes other casters don't care. They'll just wear. Okay, if I'm a TCG caster and Lost Zone Giratina is strong or something like that, I'll wear a Giratina pin because it's going to be a good Pokemon we'll see all weekend. But then other people like Chip loves to start out with the Caterpie and then in the middle of day 2 go up to Metapod and then during Top Cut put Butterfree on his pin, right? So I think it depends for every caster, but the answer is yes. Usually the casters do care what pins we're wearing, and we do try to coordinate with our partners.
Wasn't it you and Scott at NAIC, like, not only coordinated pins, but coordinated outfits? So, like, the outfits were opposite of each other as well as your pins?
Yeah. So we were kind of like Scarlet and Violet during NAIC finals, like, in our suits. And then the whole weekend, like, we were using... on Saturday, we had 2 different Landorus pins, like, and we were matching, and like one day we had, and on Sunday we did Armarouge and Ceruledge. We've done Kyogre and Groudon, right? I think in Fresno we did Kyogre and Groudon together, and Scott is the best for this because I'm so invested in the pins that he does not care one iota about pins. So he literally just stands there and I say, Scott, don't go anywhere. And I dig through to figure out our combo and I say, put this on. And he's like, okay. And he puts it, and he progressively puts it on. So Scott is the best to be with because he will just wear whatever pin you tell him to wear.
That's actually so funny. See, like, I don't really coordinate the pins too much. Like, I care about which pin I wear. But, like, normally I'm wearing, like, a Mew pin. Because, like, Mew's just, like, that's, like, just, like, my Pokemon, you know?
You are the head coach of the Toronto Maple Mews, after all.
Exactly. So, normally a different Mew pin. Like I said, I've stolen at least 2 of yours. I also have this really nice Mew heart pin that I lost taking it to the first event I was going to wear it. So, I finally found it under the seat of my car. So, I'll have to bring that out whatever event next year. But I don't really like to go for the Mew pin. I could be convinced to match, but like I normally just don't bring the pins myself. The ones I normally have on me, I only have a Mew and a Bulbasaur, and that's it. Other than that, I have to go.
You gotta pump those numbers up, Sierra.
I have a bunch at home. I just don't bring them with. That's why I steal yours. I also felt really bad. I took a I forget why I swapped to it, but I wore an Umbreon pin at an event. It was one of those like spinny ones, and it was super, super cool. I forget why I was wearing it. Maybe it was to match, but I broke it within 10 minutes, by the way. So I had to buy her a new one. I felt so bad. I was about to cry. I'm like, Rose, that I broke it. I was running because I had to go give someone something, and it fell off, and I broke it. I'm so sorry, and I'll buy you a new one. I actually had one in the package at home, so that worked out. But yeah, I broke it, so hey, at least when I borrow your pins, I don't break them.
Thank you.
I still feel bad. I was dreading going up and telling her I had broken it. I was freaking out. She was like, "That's okay." And I'm like, "Oh no, I'm sorry." Like,
no, you don't understand.
Yeah, you lent me this pin, and it was so nice that I broke it instantly. Like
this was a symbol of our trust, and I failed you.
Yeah, not even like I wore it the whole weekend and then broke it. Like I instantly broke it too. Like it was the first 10 minutes. I broke it before I even got to do like I think my first cast. Like it was
that's
actually
tough.
Incredible.
That's tough incredible to come back from.
Yeah, so I felt really bad, but yeah, I haven't broken one since then. It was the one and done, but yeah.
That was a great question, though.
Yeah, no, that was a fantastic question. So for next week's episode, make sure to get your questions of the day in. But Joe Brown, I think that's it for this week.
Yeah, I think we talked a lot. We got to recap on everything and You know, we're excited for Hawaii. We're excited we made it through Japan. Obviously, we're excited for the upcoming North American circuit with Pittsburgh and all the, I think it's like, what, 12 regionals or something like that. It should be a fun season. I'm excited to release our episodes.
Yeah, I'm excited to actually get in the routine of having our weekly episodes too, since we don't have Worlds for a while to contend with that. So if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to be coming back next Thursday, as I'm assuming we'll talk more about the DLC, we'll talk more about the upcoming season and stuff. A lot of this was reflection on Japan, but we do have our circuit up ahead of us and Pittsburgh just around the corner, which is exciting stuff. So if you enjoyed it all as well and want to be keeping up to date with everything going on, OHKO Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Release different types of content. Twitter, kind of keep updated with us. Instagram and TikTok, those would be more so for little snippets of the podcast as well, behind the scenes and other little things going into the season. So make sure to stay tuned while you can. But if you made it to this point, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of OHKO. Hopefully you have a great rest of your week. Good luck with your testing. Make sure that you're not putting anything too crazy in that team builder, unless it's a Slitherwing, in which case go right ahead. But have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in.